Okay, here we are. Now we are in the afternoon session, our final session of what has been 4 phenomenal days of ASID New Jersey Student and Emerging Professionals Week. Just to give you all a little background, until the pandemic, ASID New Jersey used to have a one-day event which was called Student Day. And the last one, obviously before the pandemic, was 2019. It was at Kean University, and it was a phenomenal one day of several different components on campus. But then we had this golden opportunity come pandemic time where everything had to be virtual, where we realized that we had to pivot, which is so very important. And you're going to understand that's part of today's theme for the afternoon. We had to pivot and think, how can we best serve our population now? And so there was no Student and Emerging Professionals Week in 2020. But for 2021, we turned it into Student and Emerging Professionals Week. And that's what it's been ever since. It's really just 4 days, but you can't just say Student and Emerging Professionals several days, right? So week sounds better. And every year we try to think, what have we not done? And this was actually a brilliant idea that came out of the brainstorming of the committee. That again, just to represent who is on this committee and how this program for this afternoon came about. The committee is made up of, and they are all here now, MJ Divino, the director of the interior design program at Kean University, Kerri Neumann, who is a 2020, I always get it confused, 2022 graduate, I got that right, from the BFA Interior Design program at Berkeley College, and now works for Danielle Palmadessa. Nadine El-Telkawi, who you all met at the morning's program, who's a 2021 graduate of the BFA Interior Design program at Berkeley College, and Jada Ruiz, who is a senior at Kean University and our student rep to the board, and Joya Giovanelli, who is a 2023 graduate of the BFA Interior Design program at Kean University and is now working professionally. That committee, and Mariam Abdelhamid, sorry, Mariam, that everyone's met. Mariam Abdelhamid, a 2023 graduate of Kean University as well. That committee thought about what we could do to best serve our population, our demographic. And the topic for this afternoon, protecting your mental health and maintaining work-life balance, is one that is so very important, whether you are a first year, second year, third year, fourth year student, whether you're recently graduated, or whether you've been in the profession for 25 years or 40 years. It's a lifelong journey. And I'm very excited now to turn it over to the committee to bring to you this very, very important program. So, committee, it's yours.
So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And yeah, so hi everyone again. My name is MJ Divino. I'm the coordinator at Kean University. But I'm also going to be hosting this little talk here. And before I do that, I just wanted to go over some statistics about mental health issues. And the numbers that I'm about to show you are particularly about among university students. This is not specific to interior design, but you'll see how we can apply the numbers from the general population of university students down to interior design in the future. And now when we're talking about mental health issues, or if you want to call it neurological disorders, the 6 conditions that we're talking about are anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD, OCD, and bipolar disorder. Now, we're not talking about learning disorders or things of that nature like autism. These are things that are most predominant among today's college student. And so I have just a series of statistics I wanted to show you. And this first set of numbers came from about around 2015, where it found that 1 in 4 adults in the US, or about 25%, has a neurological disability. This is not even within college, this is just um, the population in general, where nearly 1 in 5 undergraduate college students report having a neurological disability. The graduation rate of students with neurological disabilities is lower than those without, 49.5, almost 50%, compared to 68% for students without disabilities. And just 37% of students report their disability to their college. Very important number here, that, it's such a predominant issue, but very few students actually do anything about it. 15 to 43% of students who report their disability don't receive accommodations from their school, another important issue. 77% of college students experience moderate to serious psychological distress. Now, to me, that's one of the most astounding numbers. 3/4 of our college students report having some kind of mental health distress. 15% of that is attributed to ADD or ADHD, 35% anxiety, 27% of students with depression, and 89% say that the academic challenges they affects their mental health. 28% of students said they often feel isolated, right? So not only is there a academic issue, but there's also a emotional component to this as well. And of course, this also affects transgender and LGBTQIA plus students at higher levels than for cis and straight peers. College athletes, especially in women's sports, experience a higher level of negative mental health symptoms. And only 40% of students think that their school is doing enough to support student mental health. 70% of students with neurological disabilities didn't register for accommodations from their school. And these are the reasons that they gave for that. 41% didn't believe they weren't sick enough, quote unquote. 33%, or 1/3, didn't know that accommodations from their school even existed. And 25% were afraid to talk to professors about their accommodations or what accommodations were even available. Okay, so that's just a general sense of the numbers that we're talking about. Whether you knew them or not, you can see that it's a really high number of people that are affected by these issues. And so these are the questions that our panelists are going to be answering about. And Jeffrey gave a brief description of our panelists, but I just wanted to reinforce that. So we have Kerri Neumann, who graduated from Berkeley College in 2022. She's a former SRB and currently a junior designer at DRP Interiors. And then we also have Julia Giovanelli, who graduated in 2023 from Kean University, also a former SRB, and also the former vice president of the IDSO, and currently junior designer at LBJ Interior Solutions with Professor Eltringham. All right, so I believe, Marion, you are going to show a video.
You don't have to worry about that, MJ. You can just keep going.
Oh, okay. So I'm turning off my presentation so we can get straight to the questions. So we're going to have a series of questions. We'll see how long it takes to answer them, but we're going to alternate who is answering the questions, and we'll start off with Kerri. Question number 1 to Kerri: what did mental health mean to you when you were a student, and what challenges did you commonly face in the school environment?
So mental health kind of meant doing things for my personal well-being, whether that was something to like take my mind off of school, just self-care in general, and having a little bit of work-life balance. I know those are definitely easier said than done. Because when it comes to, or when it came to school, I was very like disciplined and had perfectionist tendencies and wanted to like just complete a project all at once so that I didn't have to think about it. And really sitting there for hours working on a project, that's like mentally exhausting. And that was one of the challenges that I had to overcome. It was learning to step away, kind of budgeting time for self-care and mental health, and learning like also, I guess, not to compare myself to other students, and doing what I could do in the amount of time that was healthy for me. So doing what I can and creating a project that was well done, but also kind of saving my sanity, and doing things that I enjoy.
Great, thank you. I forgot to mention too, if anybody comes up with a question that you want to ask, please just drop it in the chat box, and we will have a question and answer session after all the questions are answered by the panelists. All right, so we'll continue on now. Same question to Julia. What did mental health mean to you when you were a student, and what challenges did you commonly face in the school environment?
To me, mental health meant keeping up with school while also trying to keep up with my personal and my social life. I'm sure, as everybody knows, school is a lot, and I probably easily did 40 hours worth of work, just schoolwork every week, on top of other like extracurriculars as well. But I also think that mental health, being a student, there was a lot more awareness that was brought to the attention, at least like from my personal experience. And I just feel like it was talked about a little bit more. And I think that MJ and some of the other main professors at Kean, since that's where I graduated from, they did a good job at emphasizing the importance of mental health. And if you need a break, talk to them, let them know. And being able to come to the professors helped a lot. And I think a lot of people felt comfortable like coming to MJ, since he's on here, and Professor Natalie, who's not at Kean anymore, but I think they felt really comfortable coming to them and bringing up their issues. But I think learning how to navigate your feelings by talking about it helps a lot. And just the school environment, being able to talk about it more allows students to be more open, and I guess diagnose how they're feeling and what they've been going through.
Great, thank you. Okay, back to Kerri. What strategies, resources, or self-care practices can students incorporate into their daily routines or rely on to manage mental health issues?
Well, I guess to start, it's hard at first to incorporate things daily. I feel like it's kind of something that you have to learn how to do, and then it just becomes natural. But for me, what I found most helpful was journaling, like as cliche as that sounds, but really for some reason getting your thoughts down on paper is so like freeing, as far as like anxious thoughts, and also like a to-do list, like things that you have to get done, and kind of going back to what I was saying, getting through a little bit of your to-do list and then making time for other things. So you know what you have to get done, you're still being responsible, but you're allowing yourself that little bit of freedom. And also like speaking to others is really important, just so that you realize that you're not alone, and other people and other students are having the same thoughts. We're all in the same boat. What was part 2 to that question?
It wasn't really a part 2. That was a very good answer. So the question now goes to Julia. What strategies, resources, or self-care practices can students incorporate into their daily routines or rely on to manage mental health issues?
I'm really big on exercise And even if you don't like going to the gym, I think being outside is really important because as humans, we need to see the sunlight and we need to be exposed to nature. And I'm sure that we know the borderline benefits of exposure to the environment. So going on walks, and just prioritizing if you do like to go to the gym or just any form of working out, because it also releases stress and you're able to get some relief in your stress or your daily anxiety. And I also think that eating the right foods has a lot to do with it. If you're eating fast food every day for like 2 or more meals, you're going to feel like crap, you're not going to feel good, you're going to be really tired. And I also think that, like Kerri said, talking to people and taking social media breaks is healthy, whether you do it once a week, once every other week, just not go on social media, because you'll probably see a difference and you'll also probably see a rise in productivity with the checklist that you have to do and the tasks that you need to complete.
I would add to that even health and exercise is important, but do not focus it around weight. Weight is not a good indicator of your mental health. Okay, next question. We'll flip it and we'll start with Julia instead. In the age of technology, how does the use of digital devices and social media impact students' mental health, and what strategies can be employed to mitigate potential negative effects?
I think that there hopefully becomes a line of maturity of individuals saying, okay, this isn't healthy for me, I need to take a break, because often we go on social media because we're rewarded in a way with likes and comments. So if we find ourselves obsessing over things on social media, going on there specifically to look at people or to look at what people say, I think that's when we need to take a step back and kind of just observe what's going on. And I mean, social media can be good in some ways because there's been a lot of counseling that's recent for for mental health. And there are people who talk about mental health on social media. So I think maybe if you are going to use it and it's can negatively impact your life, finding a way kind of that's in between. Like I said, if people talk about mental health and if they're advocates for it, or if they just make you feel better by, giving some helpful tips, that can be a lot. But if we're seen comparing ourselves, taking a break, and you might feel the need that you don't need to post everything that you do because everyone obsesses over, oh, I have to post this, I have to do this, I have to do that. And then when you stop obsessing over social media, you'll be able to see the more important things in life, and that in reality, no one really cares. So you don't need to be so in your head about it, because everyone just gets in their head, and taking a step back will allow you to reflect more.
Great. So Kerri, same question. In the age of technology, how does the use of digital devices and social media impact students' mental health, and what strategies can be employed to mitigate potential negative effects?
I'm gonna piggyback off of what Julia was saying, that like you really have to step back, look at the bigger picture, and realize that there's so many things like happening in real life that when you're scrolling through your phone, you're really just like getting so bogged down with comparisons and fear of missing out, and it just takes up so much time away from things that are really fulfilling, and taking all time away also as a student from like being productive. Like just endless scrolling hours is just really, really daunting. It takes up so much of your day. But one suggestion I would have, like if you use social media, is following accounts that you're actually interested in. Like don't follow like people from high school that you're just trying to keep up with, and people like popular female celebrities, whatever, but just like people who are actually giving information and posting content that is fulfilling, and kind of join groups and maybe find like a little group of people who are interested in the same things that you are.
Great. All right, question number 4. We'll go back to Julia again. How can the community of ASID contribute to supporting students' mental health? And is there anything that you would recommend us as ASID members to do to support student mental health?
I think that offering these kinds of conversations to be had is helpful, and it just brings awareness, and it also offers a community because everybody who is a student in here or who was a student at some point, they know the struggles of being in school and everything that they might have to face. So I think that being able to have these conversations or just allow people to come together brings support and allows for everybody to have someone to talk to and to learn something new. So I think that a suggestion is to be offering more conversations like this, more support and more advocacy, and realizing that interior design is hard as a major, and also when you first start out as a job, and life in general isn't easy. So just being able to have that support and that community.
Okay. Kerri, same question. How can the community of ASID contribute to supporting students' mental health? And is there anything that you would recommend that the ASID do to support student mental?
I agree with Julia, like having more panel discussions like this, but also like having, I guess ASID as a whole, like being open to suggestions and really listening to what students have to say and like recent graduates, what they have to say, because we're kind of like in the thick of it, I guess, and everyone, it just doesn't get easier, but, just being open to having the discussion and hearing what people have to say. And also like just doing things for fun. Like, yes, we have meetings and events and have CEUs to get something out of it, but also having just casual times to speak with people and really get to like discuss each other, like learn things about each other. It doesn't always have to be more than that.
Mhm. Now, I just wanted to add too that one of the things that we are doing is all those numbers that I showed you before that had to do with the universities in general. We are having a survey that's going to focus on those answers and those numbers specifically for interior design students. So everybody should be on the lookout for something like that, because I think the more that we can get true numbers that really reflect us as an industry, the more that we can really focus on how organizations like the ASID can help mental health issues. Okay, next question. We'll go back to Kerri again. How can schools help students transition smoothly from the school environment to the work environment, considering the potential impact on mental health?
I think schools can help students by giving them more real world projects, because going from having like a lot of creative freedom to being very restricted with budgets and timelines and expectations and being and like working with a team, it can be like a really quick switch, and you have to like learn very quickly that not everything is as realistic or as easy as it was in design school. So I think having projects in school with budgets and maybe working with a team would definitely be more helpful. But as far as like mental health, I think that transition, like for students, it's important to be patient with yourself and just kind of act like a sponge and take as much information in as you can, and look at yourself with compassion, because it is really hard going from school to a real job. But if you have connections and mentors and like just confide in your the people that you work with, I think that goes a long way.
Okay, Julia, how can schools help students transition smoothly from the school environment to the work environment, considering the potential impact on mental health?
I think that's kind of a difficult question in a way, because it depends on when you get a job. I waited, like I not that I waited, but it took me a little bit to find a job. But I think universities offering someone to console in or to ask for advice, like I'd always be texting MJ and I'd always be asking him for advice. And also universities offering jobs, job opportunities, recommendations of what the students can do to get themselves a job or to get them to network would be helpful. And this kind of goes into like mental health after graduating, what the universities can do. Maybe offering like a way for the recent graduates to maybe like communicate with each other. I don't know how that would be because recent graduates, we're all in the same boat. We're all looking for jobs. We're all struggling. We might not be working. We might be stressed. We might be overthinking. So I think that can be helpful. And also just offering for the professors anything that they can do to help the students. Just giving some advice or words of encouragement, I know can be very helpful because they were to me.
All right, so we're going to go a little bit off script before we go to the Q&A session. Since Julia and Kerri, you're both from different schools, can we ask you to talk about, do you think your school was had the proper resources to help students with mental health issues? I don't know, whoever wants to go first.
And you're a graduate now, so you can speak just as freely as you want to speak.
Kerri, you can go first if you'd like.
Okay, sure. I think that the foundation was there, like we had good professors, but maybe like outside of that, it kind of felt like I didn't have as much guidance as I needed. And maybe like I didn't realize, I guess, how big of a switch it would be from being a student to going to work. So I don't know. I think I did have good resources and I had to do a bit more digging myself. It wasn't always like through the school that I found my help. I kind of had to go my own way and reach out to people. So I don't think through school I necessarily got the help that I needed, but I did my own, I was able to find my own help on it.
Julia?
So at Kean, they do offer free counseling for a certain amount of weeks. I think it might be like 6 weeks, or like it's like one semester and you go every other week. I don't really know how much advocating the university does for that, but I do think that if any students were having problems, they would hopefully feel comfortable, which I think they did, going to a professor and saying, hey, like I'm going through this. I can't make this deadline. Like, is it okay if I get an extension or if I just have a little more time? I felt that the professors were very understanding and that they were willing to help and that they would advocate like in any way that they could, for everyone to feel like they had a community and to feel that everybody belonged and was a family. So I do think that Kean like did a good job, like in my opinion, but I also think it might depend on the degree of involvement that the student may have. I felt that I was close with my professors, but I made that effort, and I made that connection. So I felt like I could go to them anytime that I wanted, compared to someone who really doesn't have involvement and maybe they don't want to be there longer than they have to be. They might feel that that barrier and that kind of disconnect. So I do think that it depends in certain circumstances.
Well, that actually is a good lead into the first question from the chat, which is, if you are a person who is introverted and afraid to ask about these kinds of issues, do you guys have any advice for somebody like that?
I think it's always safe to speak to a professor privately. I never had an experience where I was turned away by a professor, or even like a guidance counselor or any type of advisor. If there's just one person that you can find that you trust, even if that's outside of school for a start, I think if you're introverted, that would be a good place, having one person to confide in.
I agree with Kerri, and I think that if someone wanted to reach out to a professor about their struggles, email is a less confrontational way of going about it that could be a stepping stone for them to kind of make that hand saying, hey, I feel this way, like, can you help me in any way? So I think maybe instead of having the conversation, if they're scared, maybe emailing the professor. But I also think, I'm just reading the question in the chat. Maybe just, little by little, having small talk, small conversations with your peers or with your professors, or being more involved, like making it a point to go to events or go to things or network. Little steps go a long way. So I think that could maybe be helpful. It might be hard, but if you're trying to look at it in retrospect, it can be helpful. I don't know if that's a good response, but
I
I just
personally, I think there should be a way that students can reach out anonymously. The fact that their name might be attached to an email or something like that might be something that prevents people from wanting to talk to somebody.
I also want to add that, like, if you have that trouble with like making deeper connections or that social anxiety, you have that barrier yourself. The only way to challenge it is to challenge your own thoughts. And the more that you speak to people and kind of reach out, the easier it's going to get.
I agree with both of you guys, especially MJ. Because I just think that maybe like as the younger students come in, the more social problems that they might have because of COVID, and they're just so glued to technology and their phones. So I think that having an anonymous way to speak about their struggles can be helpful.
All right, the next question is pretty direct. And it asks if you, either you, Kerri, or Julia would be willing to talk about maybe a place when, or a time when you were sort of in the darkness about these issues. Only if you're comfortable talking about that, of course.
I would say don't associate how you do in school and the critiques you get with your self-worth, because as a student you are just developing, like, or even like just being our age, we're just developing our personalities and like figuring things out on our own, that it's so easy to be like bogged down when life is hard in general, and then you get a critique in school and you're just like, oh my God, but like I'm just the worst. But it's just not like that. And yeah, I would just say that your self-worth and who you are as a person is not defined by how well you do in school or what you look like or who you're friends with, you know?
So are you saying that from because that's what you went through?
Yeah, I think on a more personal note, I definitely got influenced, and I felt very like I needed to be perfect and in every way possible. So I went a little bit to the extremes, but once I found that like I wasn't alone in that and I was able to confide in others, I really challenged those thoughts and said, like, is this true? Like, if I get an A, am I really a better person? Or if I look a certain way, does that make me any better? If I like eat this way, am I really so much better than anyone else? Is that fulfilling? Is that making me happier? And I like really had to challenge those thoughts. And the more that I did, the more I realized that it didn't mean anything in the end. And yeah, I did graduate and I did really well in school, but looking back at it, I'm in the exact same place as where everyone else is. So, yeah.
Julia, do you have a response?
Yes, I'm reading the comment in the chat. I think that as a student, just like complete burnout, I always experience, and everyone has like their own things going on, personal, family issues. So with that, I made it a point to have a specific like mindset and determination. So like, and I've been trying to change my mindset also of like always being negative. Like my boss, he got me like a positive like journal, like book you read every day, and it's actually like really helpful. So I think using tools that can remind you of the good is something that I've done. And to know that things won't continue on, like this hard time comes now, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And also seeking help is never a problem, like I have. And I think it makes you a better person. And it also allows you to develop and have more appreciation for yourself. So I don't think that anyone should feel silly or awkward or embarrassed if they ever want to get help. And if they are too worried to tell like their parents, like I said, I know Kean has free counseling. And I think it allows you to better navigate life, like just seeking help, or if you have a really good friend or a really good family member, being able to talk to them. So I think that like the darkest times, like, you know, struggling to talk to people to figure out myself, and also figuring out how to deal with school and burnout, because we are in school for so long since we're, I don't know, 5, 6 years old. And then college is just like a completely different level. So learning how to deal with that as well.
I just love to
Okay.
I want to interject one thing as an experience, a lived experience on this subject. When I was a college student a long, long time ago, let's just say that I had a very good time in undergrad, and academics were not at the number one at the top of my list. When I got to the first semester of my final year of the bachelor's degree in interior design, it was the class where we start doing our resume. And I started seeing that all of my closest friends in the program were putting their GPAs on their resume. And that's because it was like 4.0, 3.9, 3.8, 3.7, 3.6. And I freaked out. And I went to the head of our program, who I thankfully was a huge mentor for me and has remained in my life and all of these years later. And I said to her, Miss Walton, I was crying, and I'm not a crier. And I said, Miss Walton, I am seeing Courtney and everyone's resumes. And she looked at me before I even finished my sentence, and she started laughing, and she said, okay, stop crying. We know you're not putting your GPA on your resume, obviously. And you know what? I have no worries about your future. It is my A students that I actually sometimes worry about far more than the B students like you. Because and she said, I worry that we have put this culture that a 4.0 is expected, and what people are going to achieve that may actually be causing them some harm. And I actually my students that have had me for certain classes know that early in this semester, one of the readings that I use is a reading that says, the title of the reading is Straight A's Won't Matter in Real Life. And I firmly believe that. So I just want to say that as a professor, I try to encourage my students to take care of themselves and have a well-rounded life. And remember that, straight A's aren't always going to matter in real life. That's it. Back to you, MJ.
Just keep your GPA above the minimum.
Yes, don't get kicked out of the program. I never got kicked out of the program, obviously. Yes, exactly.
So the question also is for emerging professionals. So I don't know, Nadine or Miriam or even Jada, do you guys have anything that you want to say about this?
I mean, I like what Julia said about having light at the end of the tunnel, definitely. I mean, as you're in the project, you feel the stress and you're like, oh, I have this plan. I want to have these couple renders done in this specific quality by the end of the project. And then when the end of the project is here, you're not having all the checklists that you put for yourself. But then after the project is fully done and you present it and everyone said, good job, you did a phenomenal job, presentation is good. You start to feel, okay, maybe I was like putting myself in a hard spot and I didn't need to. And maybe you didn't have to overthink what you have to achieve, because you know that you're a hard worker, you do what you have to do. And then you just feel, okay, maybe in the next project I will do more time management, or I will ask more advices that I should have asked, or stuff that pushed me back not doing these. So always remember that feeling after the project that you're okay and you're doing a good job while you're doing the project.
I wanted to add that I think that, like, with what I see with my classmates, I think I know a lot of people always say it, but time management, I think, has a big role when it comes to mental health. Because if you save things for like all last minute, you become insane. Like, you lose your mind and you start stressing and freaking out. So I think if you time manage yourself and take in days that you just kind of relax, or rather than cramming everything at once, just time everything out accordingly. So you still have a social life. And when the project's due, you're not staying up all night finishing it. So I think, like, compared to my freshman year to now, time management definitely made a huge impact on my mental health in a good way. So I think that's definitely one of the biggest tips that I always tell everyone is time management.
Nadine?
You said me?
Yeah, if you
Oh
want,
yeah.
only if you want to.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to piggyback off of Jada because time management for me was like what put me in the darkest place when I was a student. I just remember staying up too late and then having to get up so early and never feeling like I completed anything.
Mm.
It just took a giant toll on me. But I think like what really helped is like finding out what works for me. I used to always just have this like tunnel vision where it's like the specific structure that I thought I had to follow in order to get something done, and it never really worked for me. I think if I just started a project when I got it and just word vomited things onto paper that I knew I had to do, and then go from there instead of just trying to follow a structure that I thought was normal, if that makes sense. It just finding out what works for you is just my advice when it comes to time management, because even to this day, like I still struggle a little bit with it, but I just trying to change my ways now, with finding what works for me specifically. What works for me might not work for you. So,
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I
You
can
know, I
also
would like to add to that.
oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I'd like to add to that. I feel like being a Kean student and having like a what works for you. I feel like we're like all stressing about Studio 3 right now, and having that community, like I think me, Mehak, Jay, Leah, we like all sit together every Tuesday and we have that time where we help each other out and we talk about the project, and having that community and like friends like that is very, very helpful. And I think it helps you in your mental health as well, and like time management again. So I feel like that's very important to have, like, surround yourself with people who will help you in any way, and like they're there for you.
Absolutely.
And I think, what I wanted to add to that is a lead in. The next question is about asking the professors. Um, Procrastination is one of the symptoms of having ADHD. So a lot of times people will see somebody who is constantly late or handing things in late, and even professors will kind of look down on them and say, "Why are they always doing that?" But it's the ADHD that's kind of making them be late about something. I remember having a conversation with a student who has ADHD, and I asked if she was registered with the Office of Accessibility Services, and she said no. And I said, well, you really should get yourself registered there. And she said, yeah, I know, but my ADHD is preventing me from actually talking to who I need to talk to get myself registered. Now, I found out just recently that she did actually get herself registered, which is a great thing. But most of us don't realize how hard of a task it is to hand things in on time if you're suffering from mental health issues. The thing about mental health is that it's not it doesn't happen right at college. You most likely had these issues with you before you were in college. You're going to have them while you're in college, and they're probably going to continue on in some form even after you graduate. So it's not like, college is the end all be all of mental health issues. In fact, in a lot of cases, college is what makes it worse. And especially for, minorities, people in the LGBTQ plus communities. So, you know, it's become such a prevalent thing. Sorry, just looking at the question again. And the next part of the question is about resources, which I have something at the end that I'm going to share. So Jeffrey, did you, or Natalie, I noticed you're on here. Do you guys have anything to contribute in terms of resources that you might know about to help students with mental health issues?
I would say, I'm an open book. Anyone who knows me knows I'm an open book. So I don't mind sharing things about my life. I think it creates connectivity with others. So I'm happy to share that for me, my mental health is supported because I am actively engaged with meditation. And I use meditation on a daily basis. And I'm actually doing a 40-day challenge right now, which is on mindfulness meditation as a professional practice, how one uses mindfulness meditation in professional practice. And it's very specific to if you're having this during your job, your day at work, if you're struggling with this aspect. The other day was on time management. A couple of days ago, it was on looking at all of your work with a smile. And it was an amazing meditation because you visualize smiling as you're facing a task that you really are dreading. And I just feel like meditation is something that I would like to actually hear more about it being implemented into resources for students. So I would share that. I don't know if anyone else has anything. And Natalie, certainly I'd love to hear from you too, if you have something to share. Do others use meditation? I'm curious.
I just started, Jeffrey, doing yoga, and I think it's been helping.
Yeah, it certainly helps me. Does anyone else use meditation in their day?
I do meditation, and it's kind of related to my religion too. So when I'm like so stressed, so I do meditation. It's like a religious thing that I do. But yeah, and also like just thinking about that this world really doesn't matter. Like it's just gonna end, and like having that I don't know why, like just having I the other day I was just talking to my friends, and we were all stressing about studio work. And I was just thinking that, you know what, it's fine. This is something that we enjoy doing and we're here. I would rather be here than be in medical school. So that would be like more mentally challenging, I guess. So that's what I told them.
I like that. I wonder if schools are using meditation. MJ, do you have any idea if Kean has any sort of meditation
I
resources?
mean, I've seen some announcements and flyers about it, but I think the students would know more about that
And I will
generally.
tell you, as someone who suffers from ADD, I can't do long meditation practices, right? They need to be the ones I do on a daily basis. The 40-day challenge I'm doing right now is they vary from 10 to 15 minutes max, absolute max. But sometimes a 5-minute meditation can reset my mind. And then the next thing I know, I'm accomplishing more and I'm obviously more calm, and the rest of my day is so much better. So I hope people don't think of it like, oh, well, I have ADD, so I can't meditate. If I can meditate, you can meditate. Anyway,
And
sorry.
Jeffrey, as you know, I'm a big,
Yeah.
I love it. And I was just gonna suggest, right, you don't have to do it for too long. And for people who have like you said, like they can't pay attention for too long, there's like these guided meditations. So it's not like, because some people think it's just you sit there and you're just quiet for like forever. But there are like so many, let's say on YouTube, like guided meditations, and it really helps you because you're listening to someone speak. So it helps you kind of not be in your own little thoughts and kind of trying to fight that quiet time. So, I mean, there's so many different versions of meditation, and I love what Julia is sharing in the chat. And I actually like love the former students. You guys are so smart, so much like just the advice you have given is just, I'm blown away. I had my like mouth, like the whole time, I'm just like, wow, you guys are just, I think on the right track, and you're like the perfect people to give advice to the current students. I feel like you've done a better job than any of the pros. I mean, you guys are pros, but you know what I mean? Like you have recently graduated. So, but I'm, just like clapping to you guys every time you guys were speaking. And Julia's tips again, like there's so many ways to kind of, again, have that, to separate from school and to just take that little break. And what might work for one, like as Nadine was saying, doesn't work for someone else. You have to just find what works for you. But yeah, you guys gave, like, I don't even have anything to add because you guys did such a great job.
Marina is a feng shui practitioner, and I already have texted her saying that I hope next year during Student and Emerging Professionals Week, we could actually have a program that takes this to a second chapter, which is in what ways can design be the part of the solution for those who are struggling with mental health or balance.
Yeah, I love
in
that.
life.
Jeffrey's already planning next year, and it applies so much to like our own, our own world and the design world and what you do for your clients. I mean, it just, yes, the topics are endless, and I'm all into wellness again when it comes to life and design and all of that, right? It's all about wellness. So this is a great topic. This is a great conversation.
Natalie, your camera popped on. Did you want to add anything?
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Natalie.
Yeah, so I agree. I do yoga when I can squeeze it in, and I can definitely tell when I haven't done it for a few weeks, like I have just now. So the breathing is astonishingly effective, and I would tie that back to the previous presentation today, where when you're going for interviews and you're feeling kind of anxious or going to do presentations at the end of the semester, I would always try to get everybody to breathe, to stop, take a minute, and it's amazing how it helps you center, even when you just feel like everything's coming at you. So I use an app called Calm sometimes. I listen to, guided things sometimes. Through some health insurance programs, they do offer virtual meditation and kind of wellness things. And I'm sure we do it through Kean too. And I did want to mention, I was a student at Kean a long time ago, and I was a mum with a baby and a toddler. And there was a really bad news story whilst I was there, and I ended up going to use the counseling center because I couldn't get myself out of this really bad place in my head. So, I didn't expect to need to go, but I found it amazingly effective for just this particular crisis that came out of nowhere at me. And what I do think is so valuable now is that we're all talking about it. There used to be such a stigma. There used to be such, something you kept behind closed doors. You only confided in who you had to. And thank goodness we're all talking about this now, because I think it helps bring this sense of community together, which is so important. We're all in this together. We're all trying to help the students succeed. We're all trying to help the industry succeed. And I think as creatives, we have a tendency maybe to feel things very deeply. And some of us are really into details and time management, and some of us struggle with that. So there's like two sides of the coin here. So I just want you to know kind of the challenges continue, but you just learn how to help yourself through these issues as you move through your career. But I think you're all doing an amazing job, and I think this is a great program. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that we are having this conversation, and just hearing the students and the former students, it sounds like, again, it's a little bit more, people feel a little more comfortable talking about it. So I think that in itself is already so super helpful.
I wanted you all to note that if you don't feel comfortable asking a question live or even in the chat box, and you want to ask a question anonymously, if you look in the chat box, Nadine posted a link. One of our committee members, Suha, created that document, and it is truly 100% anonymous. So if you want to do that, we still have a little bit more time. MJ will keep track of the time, but if you want something answered and don't feel comfortable doing it, just use
That's
the link.
wonderful. I love
Yeah.
that. That's such a great idea.
Yeah, Nadine just reposted it again so that it's right where you would see it in the chat box.
Mhm.
Okay, MJ, back to you.
Right. So Julia posted a couple of nice things on there. So if you want to read into that, those are great. Does anybody have any other questions? You know, if you want to remain anonymous, you can use the link that Nadine just posted. Or if you're okay putting it in the group chat, you can do that as well. If you are taking some time to type, I will add that everybody now famously knows that I sing, but singing started as one of my outlets.
I did not know that.
Singing is one of my outlets for releasing stress as well. I know it doesn't really seem like it, but I can sing big. Like
MJ, I want to
I've-
hear this.
I've been told that if I really ever wanted to go into opera, I could have done it, right? But it was just that I didn't really realize that I had this ability until maybe 12 years ago or so. But you know, I did take formal lessons and things like that. So everybody says that I like to do karaoke, but I'm Filipino, so every Filipino likes to do karaoke.
MJ,
Total
I'm sitting
stereotype.
here barely not saying anything. I'm like, you must be Filipino. Because yeah, I'm just like, I can't say it, but yeah, that's amazing. That's great. I can't wait to tell my husband, who's also Filipino. And maybe he has I don't know, a trick up his sleeve, but I have not heard him sing.
And you know, to Suha's point, the singing actually came about because I started singing as a form of faith, as a form of worship. And I do have to say that I've seen more and more people praying at school, and I think it's absolutely wonderful, to the point where I'm going to start looking into how we can actually make a formalized prayer space for those people that really want to integrate that into their daily routines at school. And, you know, for the people that are here representing other schools, I think that's something you should look into as well. The places that I've seen people pray is like, I feel so bad that this is where you're praying. We really need to have a space that's dedicated to prayer, regardless of what religion or faith you may be following.
MJ, Strictly Santi, right? He's an interior designer and he's an opera singer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we'll have to because the first moment when you said opera, yeah, he sings and he's an interior designer. So in New Jersey, I believe. So
Can you say the name again, Marina? I missed it.
Well, his company is Strictly Santi. I'll look him up for you guys.
Okay.
But yeah, the second you look him up, I mean, it will pop up because he sings and he designs. So yeah, I'm surprised you don't know him, but yeah, we'll have to connect the two of you.
Sure.
I'll tell you one thing that the committee, Student and Emerging Professionals Committee, is working on. And I should actually say the committee and Jada as the SRB. Jada, the next project really for this committee, now that this is over, is to create a community that would be useful for students during finals week at the end of spring semester, or what at Berkeley is called winter semester, because we know how very stressed students are during the final couple weeks of every semester, every single semester. We see it. The professors can see it physically on students, and we also obviously hear it. So Jada's idea was to create a community of mentors with practicing designers to be a soundboard for students who are working on projects. So Jada, do you want to say anything about that? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but just that was your idea, right? Did I sort of sum it up in a nutshell, or was there more to it that you want to share?
No, you basically summed it up. I didn't go into kind of too much detail yet. I wanted to kind of focus on the student week first. But I do want to talk to Miriam about and the whole everyone in the committee about it, and kind of just brainstorm different things we can do to help people that are with their finals, because it is very, very stressful.
Yeah, thank you,
But you
Jada.
basically got everything.
Good.
I also want to add that I have to give credit to Nadine. 2 days ago when we were at Samuelson, she started that beautiful group chat with all students from Berkeley and Kean. So we started a group chat that everyone who attended, we asked them if you want to join that group chat to ask any questions between students. So if you guys need help, hey, which one of you did that project before? How do we improvise, or any questions? So for anyone here who's not in the group chat, if you want to be in this group chat, you can just email us your Instagram account and you will be on that group chat.
That's wonderful. So we
Nadine
I'd like to add
posted,
that that was actually very good, Nadine, because now we like the whole design community is like connected. So like everyone from New Jersey, and like we're all students and we're all like, connected.
Yeah, if anyone wants to be a part of that group chat, like I'm so serious, I want to keep it active because not to throw anyone under the bus, but I made a group chat right at graduation day for all the alumni, and I text in all the time and nobody responds, and it makes me so upset. Because I feel like we need community of people of the same age, the same struggles. Not that, the professors don't understand, but it's just we relate to each other better. And I want to invite everyone that's in this chat if you want to be a part of it. We have it currently going on Instagram. So if you want to just email me or DM me, I'm gonna leave my info in the chat and you guys can reach out to me and I'll add you into it. We just, it's for fun. It's just to talk about what we have going on, and I want to try to arrange maybe some get-togethers. So yeah, just
Wonderful.
yeah.
there is also a question in the chat for the students. Are there any students that have suggestions for things that schools can implement to make school a better place mentally?
I don't know if any students are gonna answer, but I myself, I'm not a student now, but I wish when I was a student, maybe we'll do like fun events with the professors, like talking like having like not a panel discussion, but like a fun, casual discussions of like the backstory of the projects, the life and what's going on, where I am and how to help me, like when I was a student, to like catch up with the stuff that I'm missing. Maybe that one idea students feel the same, not sure anymore.
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest here.
Mm-hmm.
I had sessions that were called Thursday afternoon tea.
Mm-hmm.
And so Thursdays during college hour, I had free tea available. And it was just about, we could sit around and just talk about anything. Didn't even have to be about design or whatever. And in the beginning, people came in droves. And then week after week, it would just kind of, or month after month, I should say, it would just kind of trickle out. And then eventually nobody came, and then I stopped doing it. So
Oh.
um, all I need to say about that is I think that one of the reasons why I started bringing up mental health as a thing within the ASID is that I think there's been a growth in the people calling for things like that, but for some reason there's been a negative outcome or a negative attendance for when those kinds of things are provided. So there's definitely a disconnect between the desires and the needs of the program versus what's actually being put out there as opportunities. Personally as a professor, I think a lot of people only want to join something if it's something that can advance their career, right? But if it's something more social and it doesn't, for instance, at Kean, if it doesn't count as professional development, we have a hard time getting people to actually go to it. So,
But I will say, and I'm keeping statistics. I think that Kane's professional development requirement is making a huge difference. And I'm actually going to report some statistics to another school because the number of students representing one school versus another, where one school has the professional development requirement and one doesn't, it's clear that the professional development working. So I think let's look at that as such a positive thing that Kean has done by, and for those who don't go to Kean, just so you know, it is, or graduated from Kean already, it's now a requirement for all of the courses in the interior design program, not just the studio classes, all of the courses in the interior design program. There is a professional development requirement, and it means that you attend events. And MJ is the coordinator, and the other professors, as we all as professors share what those opportunities are. And I think it's actually, it's a phenomenal way of taking something that was slightly negative, the lack of students showing up for things, and turning it into a really beautiful, positive moment. I think it's also data for active learning versus passive learning as well. Yeah. It is 1:08. We only have about 7 minutes before we wrap this program up. So we definitely want to get any additional questions answered. And if we could do that in the next maybe 3-4 minutes for MJ and Mariam and the panel to wrap up. And then at about 12 after or so, we'll do our final thank yous and announcements.
Can I just show my final slide? Oh, sorry.
Absolutely. Please do. Yes.
Nadine, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say there is an anonymous question that I received.
Oh.
But if you want to do that first, you could.
Okay. 1 second. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but my slideshow started out really negative, but now look how it ends. Very positive, happy students there. So the question would be, so where do you go from here? And hopefully these tips that I'm showing here is kind of a summation of what we've been talking about. First step, I think, though, is to be honest with yourself and your situation, and don't rely on your own self-diagnosis. We're all in school for interior design. We are not pre-med or social work or things like that. If you think you are suffering from one of these disorders, go get yourself checked out. Go to a real doctor and find out what the case is. Because, you know, one of the things that we didn't talk about is medication might be one of the ways that you would need to get past this situation. Find out exactly what services and accommodations your institute provides. Identify who is in your corner, right? It's not, one of the things that Julia was talking about is that it's not so important to have tons and tons of friends on social media. It's much more important to have those 2 or 3 people that you can count on, whether they're your family, your friends, people that you work with. Just find out who is really going to respect you, who's going to trust you, and who's going to help you. And then get help. Now, you know, that's easier said than done, but I would venture to say that there's nobody here on this chat that can do it on their own, right? You need help. In a lot of cases, you need professional help as well. But one of the other therapeutic things that you can do, believe it or not, is to help other people that are in the same situation that you are. Those numbers that I showed at the beginning show that there are a lot of people who can identify with you, right? A lot of times, if we have ADHD or one of these disorders, we feel like we're the only ones that suffer from that. And that is absolutely not true. There are always people around that you can bounce ideas off of. You know, how did you get past this? Just asking those questions and making yourself known is really important. Okay. And, you know, we did have a situation, not within the interior design program, but within the Michael Graves College, which, you know, includes the architecture program as well, where a student did commit suicide this past semester. Was it this semester? Or I think it might have been over the winter break. So yeah, you know, if you are in such a dire situation where suicide has crossed your mind, there's no joke about that. You know, that has to be taken with the utmost sincerity. So if you didn't know, 988 is the number for suicide and crisis lifeline. So you can call or text 988, or you can go online to 988lifeline.org, and you can chat with somebody. or you can just, figure out how you can get some help if you are in that dire of a situation. So please don't let it get to that kind of a level. Okay. And for everything that I have talked about, all those numbers are backed up by actual research. So if you're interested in the sources for all of that information, that's here. And if you want this in a more written format, I can give it to Miriam, and she can distribute it to everybody.
Thank you so much, MJ. Nadine, you want to read that one question to before we close?
Yeah. Okay. So it's two questions. This is directed at Julia and Kerri. It says, did you ever feel that any professor didn't understand you if you expressed that you were overwhelmed with design work?
Oh, yes.
I personally didn't really like that I can't respond because that's never happened. Like I've never I guess spoke like about it, like, hey, I need a break. Like I never did that. So I can't respond to it, but I do feel like if I were to have spoken to them, that they would have showed some remorse, and given me somewhat of a break, or offered some help to me.
I don't think I ever asked for slack either, but
Don't call it slack.
but I definitely confided in the stronger relationships that I had with professors. If I've ever felt like unsure how a professor would respond, I don't think I would go to them. Like I would definitely go to the ones that I had a closer relationship with, because there are professors who are just going to kind of be like, well, it's not going to get better in the real world. So like, I didn't feel like that was going to be a helpful response. So if I got that energy from them, then I wouldn't have gone to them anyway. So there is, out of all your professors, there has to be one where you feel like you can talk to them. I would hope.
Is there a second question, Nadine?
Yes. So the other question reads, if multiple of my classmates felt overwhelmed by projects that we were given, how could we tell our professors that we're feeling this way without them feeling as if we are complaining?
I mean, I was overwhelmed all of my 4 years, and this might not be helpful, but I do think it is the reality of life, because when you get a job, you have to do what you have to do. You have deadlines, and if it's not done, like if you don't get it done in the time you're supposed to, it still has to get done. So everyone is overwhelmed. My boss is a mom. My boss, she gets overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed. Everybody just gets overwhelmed. And I do think it's about mindset, because if the professors were not giving us the amount of work that we have, when we start working, we're probably going to be like, oh my God, they didn't prepare us even more than I'm already not prepared. So I think that students complain either way. We have too much work, give us less. You didn't give me enough work. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And you're not going to fully understand that, I think, until you graduate and you're working in the real world. So I'm sorry if you're overwhelmed, but it's honestly for the better probably. And if you really, really need that extension, and if you really, really need help, then you should reach out to your professor and you should talk to them personally about what's going on and your struggles.
I definitely agree with that. And like, just take this time to work on those strategies of time management and coping strategies like with stress, because that's only going to help you when you move on to a real job. Like MJ, I think what you were saying before, I wrote it down, was really important, that like bad habits that you have even before college and in college are only going to get worse if you don't address them. So if you're stressed out now and you don't know how to manage that stress, it's only going to get worse when you go on to the next stage. So it's like, take a step back, look at it now, figure out how you can manage your stress, how you can manage these projects, and it's only going to get easier as time goes on. Whereas you're like, oh my God, I'm stressed, I'm not going to meet this deadline, and you have all these negative thoughts flowing. It's like, what can I do to make this situation better? And that workload might not go away, but the negative thoughts will around it.
Yeah.
Marina, you were trying to say something before?
Yeah, no, they're like great advice. I think again, it's about time management and trying to figure out how to make it work for yourself, right? And just doing your best. And I was saying, you know, when I taught a studio class, when people weren't doing their, work, I think it's again important to just come up to the professor and explain why. So like it's not the same if you just don't do it or don't show up and you're not saying anything, where you would explain, maybe I'm going through something, like you can again come up to your professor and explain, because otherwise they will be thinking you're slacking, right? Like because you're not sharing, so you're just not prepared, but nobody knows the reason. So yeah, I think just being open and kind of explaining yourself and having someone to help you through that. Maybe they could be of help. They can give you some advice or kind of guide you through whatever is happening. So I think again, speaking about it probably helps.
Yeah, we do have to wrap up, and I wanted to just say I just shared this yesterday with a group of students. The way to go about that and answering this question is about opening up yourself. Marina's supporting this, opening up yourself to the professor. The thing that I would recommend you not do is rally all of your friends and send one email to the professor that is all of the comments and making it seem like the entire class is blaming the professor for an assignment that seems overwhelming at that time. That is probably not going to be that well received, because it actually seems like you're telling the teacher that they're not teaching the class very well. And I shared that with a group of students yesterday who were possibly going to be doing that. And I said, present your situation, speak about your understanding of the project and what you need help with. The professor is going to respond to that individual connection in a far better way than getting an email that says all of us in the class or several of my friends and I. That takes the personal out of it. And we actually can help you better if we understand exactly where you are and what you are struggling with. And then we can actually speak to your particular situation. And as a professor, I know MJ and I and Natalie and other professors that we all know are happy to have conversations with students, especially one-on-one. So don't be afraid of us, right, MJ? Don't be afraid, Natalie. Don't be afraid of us. See us as on your side, because we are on your side. This has been an exquisitely beautiful ending to what has been a phenomenal 4 days. And I am so glad that we're ending on with this very important program. All of the programming that Student and Emerging Professionals Week brings to our demographic every year is 100% free. And I just want to say thank you one more time to our sponsors, Samuelson, Window Treats, Sherwin-Williams, and our chapter sponsor, Design NJ. It is their funding of the chapter's activities and the events of this week that allows us to bring important programming to our students and emerging professionals for free. So thank you to them. I do want to make a couple of announcements that about things that are coming up. I'm going to be emailing all of the students that at Kean and Berkeley. I don't believe anyone on here. Actually, Natalie, I'll send it to you to share with CCM students as well. The Design Excellence Awards competition is now open, and all of you as students have at least one project that you could enter, and it's free for ASID student members to enter a project. And that could be just a phenomenal boost to your confidence and to your resume if you were recognized at the Design Excellence Awards in late June. That's something that's coming up, and we will stay in touch with all of you about what Jada and the committee pulled together to connect you with potential working professionals as mentors during finals week. Marina, closing words from our president.
Oh my gosh, love this. Definitely apply for the awards. Because you know what? No one else will. So just apply. I think again, I guess it's adding more work to you guys, but again, time management, just put that in your calendar and just do it because again, I think it will be great. I would love to see you guys there and would love to see one of your faces win. And I'm sure you can do it. We're just adding more work, Jeffrey. We're just, I don't know. But again, I think it's like just don't leave it for last minute. I think some of the advice, that we all shared, I think it's great. But I was just thinking like don't leave stuff for last minute. And I know I do, we all do. I think that's where the stress comes in because again, it's like midnight and you're like, oh, let me apply for this award. Oh, and then it gets a little hectic. I think allowing yourself some time where you can like do it without having that I think that's where the stressful part comes in. I'm sure everybody will agree because everybody leaves everything till last minute. So don't leave it till last minute, till the deadline of the awards or whatever project you're working on. I think that's how you can kind of stay calm and collected. And I just love this program. Thank you everyone who put it together, everyone who's here, our sponsors. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, feel free to email me. Jeffrey can share my email at ASID or my business email. Definitely feel free to reach out. I know some of the students from Berkeley reached out when we met at Berkeley, asking for some advice, like social media, portfolios. Again, I think one of the tips I gave, don't forget your name. Somebody sent me their social media and I didn't even know the name of the person. So definitely, share your name. Like Jeffrey said, it's very important to, kind of be open about who you are. So if you're sending me something and I don't, I see like the drawings, the projects, but I have no idea like what your name is and your face, kind of don't be afraid to share a photo of yourself when you're like on social media, sharing your projects or creating the account. So I guess just be you and feel free to reach out if you guys need anything.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And one
Thank you.
final big round of applause for Mariam Abdelhamid, Nadine El Talkawi, Kerri Neumann, Julia Giovanelli, MJ Divino, Jada Ruiz. I don't think I missed any committee members. Suha Jawad. And Suha Jawad for putting all of this together. So big thanks. All of our programming will be published on the ASID YouTube channels in the next couple of weeks. Please feel free. We want it to be a living resource. So feel free to share it with your friends who couldn't come today. If you think it would be, whether they're ASID members or not, if you think it would be helpful for anyone in your life, share it. That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
all right,
definitely.
everyone.
Have a great weekend.
Have
Bye.
a great weekend. I'm going to stop recording.